the challenges of raising teenagers is the battle for authority. Dad and mum are the ones with authority. However, as children grow into adults, they begin to make decisions for themselves and naturally assume an authority over their lives. The teenage years are often the most difficult in families because all parties struggle to find the right balance between authority, responsibility, and freedom. Last week we began looking at the Gospel of Mark, and we finished with Jesus calling some of his disciples to follow him. This week the ministry of Jesus begins, and the focal point is the authority by which Jesus teaches, heals, and casts out demons. Mark 1:21. They went to Capernaum, and when the Sabbath came, Jesus went into the synagogue and began to teach. The people were amazed at his teaching because he taught them as one who had authority, not as the teachers of the law. And prior to Jesus, the standard teaching in the synagogue was the kind that referenced other people. You wouldn't give your opinion, but you would explain what others thought in order to make the point that you were trying to make. And that's what we do when we talk about Jesus. Jesus said this, we say Jesus did that. Jesus is why we live the way we do. But Jesus himself didn't do that because he spoke with an authority that only he can claim. That is the authority of the Son of God. And it's that authority that is challenged. Mark 1 verse 21 to 23. Just then a man in their synagogue who was possessed by an impure spirit cried out, "What do you want with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God." "Be quiet," said Jesus sternly. "Come out of him." The impure spirit shook the man violently and came out of him with a shriek. The people were all so amazed that they asked each other, "What is this? A new teaching and with authority? He even gives orders to impure spirits and they obey him." Now there's an irony here, which is that what we'll see throughout the Gospel of Mark is that people who claim to be good ignore the words of Jesus, whereas the evil spirits who are not good obey the words of Jesus. However, what's interesting is that this is the second time now that the people in the synagogue have seen and heard Jesus, and particularly were witnesses of his authority. And at one level, Mark wants us to see what Jesus says and does because it helps with our understanding of who Jesus is. But he also wants us to notice how people respond to Jesus, because that helps us to know how we should respond to the words and actions of Jesus. See, in the synagogue, the people are amazed and they ask, "What is this?" The answer is that this is the power and authority of Jesus, the Son of God. Okay, the unfinished battle between Jesus and Satan that began with the temptation in the wilderness, that's continuing. And it will continue until the death and resurrection of Jesus when he defeats Satan. But at this moment, we're getting a taste of what it looks like for Jesus to rule over evil. And because of his victory over sin, death, and Satan, we can trust that Jesus rules over evil today and throughout the world. Now, that doesn't mean, of course, that life will be free from struggles and temptations or that we'll never see evil in our life, but it does mean that Jesus has already won the victory over Satan. And so there is nothing Satan can do that can separate us from the love of God. And so with that in mind, take a minute to thank God for the victory of Jesus over death and sin, and then pray that God will help you to stay away from evil.